welcome to our Nutrition Detective activity. Now, depending on where you are doing this activity, you're going to do it in a couple different ways. If you're in your classroom, your teacher will most likely have these nutrition label cards, and you're going to be looking at your own group's individual nutrition label card to analyze it and be a nutrition detective to find out how much added sugar is in your item. Now, if you're at home and you don't have a nutrition label card, go ahead and just find a snack that you like to eat, something in your cupboard that has a nutrition facts label, and you can follow along with us as well. Now, as I mentioned, you need that sugar shock activity to be able to do this. So make sure you have that and you're ready, and let's get started. Now, looking at your sugar shock handout, let's do the first column together. Notice we're analyzing a bottle of Coca-Cola. So let's do the first row together using the Coca-Cola nutrition label on your handout as an example. How many ingredients are in this beverage? That's the first thing I want you to look for. Now, remember what we talked about as we look through the ingredients list. Every time we see a comma, we know that that ends one of the ingredients. So go ahead and take a look at this one and count how many ingredients are in a bottle of Coca-Cola. Well, the answer is 6. What names for sugar are listed within the ingredients list? Now let's think back to some of our tips and hints about how to find out what sugar is. Take a look at what's in the Coca-Cola and see what you come up with. So as you probably noticed, the very second ingredient in Coca-Cola is high fructose corn syrup, which is obviously an added sugar. Now remember, the ingredients are listed in the order by the quantity. So the first ingredient is what the product has the most of, and then the second is the next, and so on. Now the second ingredient in this is high fructose corn syrup. So a large majority of what this product is made of is sugar. Another question to ask, how many grams are in one serving? Well, remember, it's important to find out, first of all, what one serving is. In this example, the serving is the whole bottle, but sometimes in a larger bottle, it's important to take a look and find out there will be multiple servings in one bottle. But for this example, this bottle is just one serving. So how many grams of added sugar are in one serving? So looking over at the nutrition facts label there, as we're looking through it, the total number of grams of sugars is 55 grams. The answer is 55 grams. So how many teaspoons of added sugar are in one serving? So when we convert teaspoons from grams, we're going to divide by 4. So 55 grams of sugar divided by 4 is going to tell us how many teaspoons that is. And the answer is 13.75 teaspoons. So this is a lot of sugar, and I'm going to show you a little bit later exactly how much sugar is in a bottle of Coke. But let's get going on your own nutrition facts label now. So go ahead and get in your groups, or if you're working alone, get your item and take a look at the nutrition facts label and see if you can fill in the second column in the sugar shock handout. Let's see what we found out in our group work. First, what items did we find on these nutrition labels cards today? Well, you might have had an Oreo card, a Gatorade card, Captain Crunch, or some yogurt with some sugary topping. So depending on which card you got, you had a chance to look at these items. If you were working from home, you may have found a different item. Looking at your ingredients list, was there at least one ingredient that you couldn't pronounce? Remember what our rule of thumb was on that. If you can't pronounce it, it's probably not good for you. Also, while we were looking at that ingredients list, we were looking for added sugars. So what words or what exact kinds of sugars were we looking for? Well, maybe you saw something that was pretty obvious, like brown sugar, cane sugar. But you probably also saw things like corn syrup. Anything that ends with the word ose, remember, is most likely a sugar. Sucrose, maltose. You may have also saw honey or things like dextrin. So hopefully you were able to identify what the added sugar was in the ingredients. The next question was, how many grams of sugar did your product contain? Well, if your product was Gatorade, you probably found that there was 34 grams of sugar in the Gatorade. Surprisingly, the Gatorade had the most amount of added sugar out of all of these items. And once again, Gatorade is kind of a tricky one because oftentimes we think that it's a healthy drink to drink after we do some physical activity, but it's really high in sugar, and water is always a better option. So now let's calculate how many teaspoons of added sugar your product had per serving. Now remember, we take the total grams and we divide by 4. So the Gatorade had 8.5 teaspoons of added sugar. The Crunch Berries, 4 teaspoons of added sugar. The Oreos had 3.5 teaspoons of added sugar. And the Yo Crunch yogurt with the M&M topping had 5 teaspoons of added sugar. So once again, Gatorade was the winner. Gatorade has the most added sugar of all of these per serving. If you weren't able to use our nutrition label cards and you're at home and you found your item, compare the answers that we found from these items with your own. So we looked at 5 different products today, and what was the most common thing between all of them? Well, they all had added sugar. So let's get a better visual of how much added sugar is actually in these things. So we're going to go back to our Coke example, and let's take a look at exactly how much added sugar is really in a bottle of Coca-Cola. So let's take a closer look at exactly how much sugar is in a bottle of Coca-Cola. So as you can see from here, as we get closer, that is the amount of sugar that would be in this bottle of Coke if we were to be able to see it. Now, to show you even better, I'm going to go ahead and dump it out. But as you can see, that's a lot of sugar. So when we drink a bottle of Coke, please keep in mind that we are putting all of this sugar into our body. So can anybody remember the 4 areas where we oftentimes find added sugar in our diet? Well, obviously the first one was just in desserts and sweets. We kind of knew that one. The other one to watch out for is the breakfast, our breakfast cereal, our yogurt, flavored yogurts, and then of course our beverages that we drink. Those are areas that we really want to watch out for added sugar. So let's talk a little bit about how we could possibly come up with ways to reduce the amount of added sugar that we consume in all those areas. So let's first talk about desserts and our snacks. Now, one thing we're going to keep coming back to is there's some really healthy substitutions that have natural occurring sugars that are really going to help us maybe cut down on these unhealthy added sugars. And the big one for that is fruit. We're going to add fruit to everything to kind of help make up for that sweetness that we're missing. So in our desserts, oftentimes just having a piece of fruit will satisfy you just like having that sugary snack would. But we can also decide to choose like maybe lower portions of our desserts, or maybe if we're eating dessert every day, we can decrease the frequency down to maybe just a couple times a week. That's always going to help. Another great idea would be to bake your own desserts. That way you know exactly what ingredients are going in and you have more control over the amount of added sweetener. Let's talk a little bit about yogurt now. Now, anytime we have a flavored yogurt, it's going to have a lot of unhealthy added sugar. So the best bet is to always go with natural unflavored yogurt. Now, it has some natural sweetness in it called lactose. But what's a great way to sweeten that yogurt? Well, once again, adding that fresh fruit will really spice it up and make it taste a lot sweeter and hopefully make up for that lack of sweetness that you're looking for. You know, another big one is breakfast, and one thing to really watch out for is the cereals. A lot of the cereals that are marketed to kids are very high in sugar, and we want to watch out for that. So the best bet is to find something with not a lot of added sugar, a little bit more natural, but once again, use that fruit to add to the cereal to kind of add that sweetness. Then you're getting a lot healthier options. Now, other parts of breakfast that can be unhealthy are things like pancakes and syrup and those kind of things. And we're not saying that you need to cut that out completely, but if you were eating that kind of stuff every day, maybe just eat that stuff on the weekends and really try to hit a healthier, lower sugar breakfast the rest of the week. And the last one, of course, is beverages. I think that's the one we have to watch out for the most because it is so easy to drink a lot of added sugar. And a lot of times things sneak up on us, like the Gatorade example. The Gatorade seems like a healthy option, but it's really high in sugar. So we want to watch out for that. So we want to look for beverages that do not have added sugar. Looking for natural things like 100% juice or unflavored milk are great options. And don't forget that water is the very best thing that you can drink every day. So great job today on being a nutrition detective. Let's get ready to wrap up this lesson.